Okay, anything happening? Any questions? Before we go into the word of thought?
Yeah, what happened in the last hour last week?
Oh, you were gone.
In a nutshell.
Yeah. So this is temporary. This is the word of thought. And truly, we are living in two words simultaneously. So this is the blue is the word of thought, and this whole mass here, just although it's infinite, but just in comparison, can't even compare it. And this is the word of consciousness. So the word of thought is like a veneer that covers the true reality. It's just a very, very thin veneer that is actually like light shining on the screen, and it's all photons in comparison. And we often, or more often than not, we live in this world of thought. We're constantly thinking, and we're not immersed in the true nature of reality, which is really consciousness. And we get caught up in thought. We get caught up, and we take our thoughts seriously. Think like our lives depend on thought. If we don't think, we cannot survive. If we don't think, we cannot attain, and so forth. And yet, really, the thought is just it's a projection, and it does not change anything. And then you say, okay, but thoughts create actions. Actions are just as a projection as thoughts are from a deeper source, from this. So if you have like the sun, all the action is happening inside the sun, and on the surface, the light that we see that emanates from the sun is just what escapes from all the action. It's those photons that end up, or electrons become photons, yes. But everything is happening in here. Everything is happening in here. What comes out of the sun, the light that comes out of the sun, which is the light on the screen, which is our thoughts, is just all the remnants. The remnants, or the end results, the indicators, the symptoms of what's happening inside here. So everything we experience in our life is happening in here, not in here. It's not happening. So everything that happens, every action, every thought, every feeling, every event, everything you experience is actually happening in here. As pure one light, and when it comes to penetrate the surface, it comes out as the light that you see. So how can we ignore this? Since this doesn't change anything, it has no objective. Our thoughts absolutely have no objective. Because every action our bodies or our brain end up taking is just another reflection. It's not just another reflection just like those, it's all symptoms. So I want to see if we can just not focus on the symptoms and focus on what produces the symptoms. So what comes in there?
I know we talked about this at other times too, but like if thought comes from consciousness and thought, that is where the depth, why are there these evil thoughts that manifest in people that, like the guy that kidnapped those and imprisoned those two women for 14 years or whatever it was. How can that, like consciousness, we're all one and that's the, it doesn't matter and all of that kind of stuff. I know we've talked about that sometimes when you say that thought comes first, or the consciousness leads, how do we get so messed up that we would
do things like that?
Yeah.
Why are you smiling? You have an answer for that. You want to answer that?
No.
Well, I would draw Linda's answer on the board while you're answering, or anyone would like to answer that? I'm going to make it big so you can catch it with the camera there, Shannon. See room?
Because it's genetics,
Yeah, so-
conditioning, randomness. And it all has to exist.
Right.
Because I heard
So I'm
that.
going to put this, we've done this before,
Yes, sorry.
but I'll try to make it look professional and even. So you have the words, let's see. Separatism. Then you have past and future. You have good and bad. And then you have me and mine. And then you have the I, which is the same really. Okay, so this is exactly how things look like so far. To answer your question, this is the reality that brings about such events. So let's say this is existence right here. This line is existence. This is the ground, the foundation of all of this is existence itself, form. Then you have the brain. Those columns are the left brain and the right brain. Let's put it. This is the left side of the brain and this is the right side of the brain. And then after the brain, like animals, you have the unconscious brain. This is the unconscious brain. And then you get the subconscious brain developed. This represents the subconscious brain. Now, remember the, what did we call this? The scaffold. The scaffold. So this is the scaffold. This is what the scaffold looks like. This is the scaffold. That's about it. So the scaffold that's holding the unconscious and subconscious mind together, or maybe this before, instead of putting this, I will use the word ego, since we've used the word me and mine. Ego. Right? Now the tip of evolution in terms of human mind is the ego now. Animals don't have much ego, but us humans, ego is the tip of evolution. It's the most evolved state of humanity so far, vastly speaking, is ego. And now we're stepping up. Some humans are evolving beyond the ego now. But the ego is really part of the scaffold. It's on top of the scaffold. Ego is really what's holding the subconscious mind together. So the ego is the platform that's holding the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind is ego. Our state of subconsciousness is the state of the ego. So it's necessary. So the ego is absolutely necessary as a platform that made the subconscious mind exist, that it made it possible to exist. Now the light that's coming from behind through this scaffold, yes, it comes in as those. So if I put those words here and I shine the light, you're going to see those words on the screen, right? You're going to see those words printed on the screen. And this is the reality that we live in. Those words that you see on the screen is, you see you see your family, your whatever, and you see the good and bad, and you see the past and the future, and all this separatism. This is the reality that you see on the screen. This is exactly this. So consciousness comes in through this, and when it goes through the scaffold, this is the experiences that are going to happen. When you say a man abducts or kidnaps two girls and tortures them. It's about me and my priorities, my stability. You know, obviously he did something like that because it's making him feel secure. It's giving him a sense of purpose in life, maybe. Whatever his motive is, it's self-serving. It's all about me and my emotions, me and my needs, me and my whatever it is. And each of us have this. This is how our mind looks like. Each single person, including myself, everybody, this is how our mind looks like. It's an incomplete mind. This has been in the works from the beginning of life. So you start with atoms and form, then you've got the brain, you know, through molecules and cells, organisms, so forth, and then you're completely unconscious mind. Now we're in the state of the subconscious mind, and some of us are, some people are right here. And this is the conscious mind. This is the last, the keystone is being placed to hold this whole mind as a complete mind, a complete functional mind. This is a sub-functional mind without the keystone, because it's dependent on the scaffold. It's not a functional mind. It's not, and that's when we say the state of subconsciousness or the ego is a state of dysfunctionality, because the mind is not fully functional yet. Our mind is not fully functional yet. But once the keystone, which is a consciousness, shall I write this here just so you can see? So this is conscious mind. And this is subconscious. Bless you. We got the brain. I don't know if you want to zoom in, Sharon. Just to, it's kind of here. So depending on the mind, depending on the individual's mind, it depends how this can be in bold letters or it can be in whatever you call it, thin letters or lowercase or something like that. Depends how cluttered, how thick is this scaffold, how rigid it is. So a person that can do something like that, Linda, probably his me and my and the good and bad are so bold that very, very little light is coming from. And so when you see it, when you see those, you see big letters, ego, me and mine, and all that stuff. So his need for the me, for the separatism, for having good and bad, because for him, when he does something bad, he knows he's doing something bad, but it's bringing him good for him. So it's a balance of good and bad. Like the yin and yang. Yin and yang is a subconscious concept that there is good and bad. Although, Taoism, I think, Taoism came up with the yin and yang. It's a good concept, but to see the bad and the good and the balance of the bad and the good, depending how you see it, if you see it bad and good, then it's a distorted concept. But if you see it as opposites to balance the wave without bad and good, the top can be bad if you wanted it, bottom can be good, or the other way around, but there is no bad and good. It's just a wave, basically. Then, so I don't know exactly how Taoism interprets the bad and good. If they literally say that bad is bad and good is good, and that's the balance of life, I'm not too sure. But so it all depends on how thick, how prominent the scaffold is, which is the subconscious mind. Is what causes people to do what they do. It's not a free will choice. Science is discovering now that there is two glands in the head here, and they're like almond shaped, and they call the amygdala.
Amygdala.
Amygdala? Something like that. How do you say it?
Amygdala.
Amygdala. You know what the amygdala does? Yeah, it creates the neurotransmitters, the neurochemicals, and the amygdala reacts on input before our frontal lobe, before our cortex judges a situation. So meaning, you'll be sitting and something happens that threatens you. That's what the amygdala is activated. When something is threatening you, the amygdala senses that input before your rational brain judges the situation and makes a rational decision how you want to react to that situation. So those chemicals are produced, and they produce, I think, the serotonin, and adrenaline, and endorphins, that makes you aggressive, angry, and to protect yourself from the threat. Before you can rationalize the situation, it could be for a second, or it could be for minutes or hours, before you rationalize. So basically, that tells us that we often don't have control of our reactions. And even when we have control, we don't really have control. But we don't have control of our reactions. It's all chemicals. Something triggers something, and then you see your body reacting, and then they tell you, you chose to be aggressive. You chose to attack. You could have handled it in a different way. But actually, there was no thinking there before that, what appears to be a choice. So when you talk about somebody like that, that's constantly in that state, and in his instinctive, automatic state, which is an unconscious state. First and foremost, is he to blame? Is there an individual there to say this individual is responsible for his acts and he needs to be punished, or he's a bad person, or whatever it is? Now science is telling us that we shouldn't look at things that way, because that's not the way things work. So literally, you cannot blame anyone for anything, no matter what. We can maybe react to prevent certain situations by rehab or therapy or teaching or whatever it is from a conventional approach. But the fact is, there is no bad person, there is no bad doing. It is all works on autopilot on its own.
So, if he was conscious of what he was doing, he would be more intelligent and more superior. Yeah.
Right. There is no such a thing. When we use the word conscious, we use it so superficially. We don't understand really what is it to be conscious. When people say there's conscious thinking.
A conscience. When you have a conscience, you know you.
Oh, conscious like morals. Conscience. What is conscience?
I thought it was conscious. Okay.
Yeah, but no, it's the same thing. Conscience comes from consciousness. Conscience is an attribute of the consciousness cluttered by some subconsciousness. I mean, when you reach level of conscious being, of awareness, there's nothing called morals anymore.
But conscious is also taught because your environment, the people condition you to believe that certain things are right and wrong, and so it's your conscience that's supposed to kick in to make you feel bad when you're not following those. So
Right.
That's not just all consciousness, right? It's partly conditioning. Because I think some people, like that guy, they're not him particularly because I don't know enough about it, but there are a lot of people that do things that they think are wrong, but they feel compelled to do them. And so they also, their conscience kicks in, and so they feel guilty at the same time that they feel compelled to do the thing.
Right.
And so it ends up like they hate themselves.
Right.
So I think a lot of that is.
Right, you're absolutely right. I mean, to be conscientious, let's say the people, the most recent cannibals we have, people from Papua New Guinea. But just 35 years ago, they were just still abducting people from different villages and eating them.
But that was for a reason. They
But-
thought that they were
Right.
gaining that person's spirit and strength.
Right.
I mean, they had a theory behind it. They said that when they killed a warrior and ate his flesh, that they felt that they got his strength.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's gross, but I mean, it's not that they
Didn't think it was bad.
They didn't think it was bad.
That's right.
They thought that it was,
Right.
you know, to make them stronger.
Yeah, so to them that was a conscientious act. Their conscience allowed them to do something like that. So you're absolutely right, conscience. But ultimately, the higher the morals, the more you're in tune with what feels that's coming out of love or that's coming out of fear, ultimately is the attribute of consciousness. I mean, if you tell those people, you know, by eating this person, you're gaining something, you're loving yourself. But what about that person? Are you loving that person? They're saying, yeah, I love the taste of his flesh, but I don't actually love that person. So ultimately, morals and conscience is just a projection of love.
There was something going around Facebook about this tribe. I don't remember where the tribe was, but whenever someone did something that, they didn't call it good or bad, but when someone did something to hurt another member of the tribe in some way, they would bring that person to the city square, put him in the center, and they would all go around him and tell him everything good about him. Rather than punishing, they just wanted to remind him
Yeah.
of all the good that was in him. And I thought that was very
Yeah.
interesting, because
Yeah.
and it,
I like that approach.
yeah, and instead of punishing him, they just reminded him who he really was.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I've seen the documentary about those people. And, it's very, very interesting what they think. So basically, everything that we do bad, whether this person does what he does, or we take something that doesn't belong to us, or we take advantage, exploit the situation, or exploit somebody even at the lowest levels, all depends on how cluttered this, or how thick this scaffold is. The more transparent this scaffold becomes, when those letters, you know, when those words become really thin lines, there's more lights coming through, more light coming through, then you experience your brain. There's an experience that your brain is more loving, more compassionate, more at peace with things, more accepting, and also you see different experiences in your life. You know, experiences that are more fulfilling than those experiences that just fill a void and create another void. So the main thing is how to get rid of the scaffold, right? That's would be the question on everybody's mind, is how to get rid of the scaffold. So we can experience our brain and experience the experiences of our life in a divine light. So how to get rid of the scaffold? Think about it.
Maybe to accept everything.
But as long as there's me and my, you're not going to be able to accept everything. As long as there's good and bad. And no matter how much we conceptualize that, yeah, there is no good and bad. And there is no past and future. Everything is one. But the actual result is completely different. When we go out and beyond those little thoughts here and we live in total good and bad. We live in total past and future. So it's just a concept, it's a thought, it's a scratch on this line right here, but our word is totally this word, separatism and so forth. So, I mean, I'm sure you do have the answer. Think about it.
It just live. And,
No, but
and
how
consciousness
is this getting rid of? How is this scaffold getting rid of? I mean, ultimately we are here is because we want to understand or we want to become whatever our motive is, although it's all the conventional level. The reason why we're here is because we are still the conventional realm. So how can we let those experiences come into our life? How can we let this light go through a clear opening, a clear lens? How does this get dismantled? How do you take one letter at a time, or just collapse this whole scaffold. How does that happen?
That's like be aware of, what that is. Pay attention to whatever that is, like the ego. So many times we can be like, that's not me, that's someone else. I feel like if you can take like ownership.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So, but what you're saying is, I'm gonna put another line here, and put word of thought. This is what constitutes the word of thought. This constitutes every thought we have. Every single thought we have is constituted by this. So any thought that you have, including this thought, that I am the ego, it's a thought. You're still living in the world of thought. Any thought, I am not the ego. I am the consciousness. Everything is one. Nothing is separate. There is no me. That's the thought. That thought arises because of this. So this is still just as present. Every single thought. This is the word of thoughts. This is it. So any thought comes from this. So once you catch yourself thinking, this is your word. This is your word. The word of thought. But there is something beyond the word of thought and words that are sending in our heads. Or every other. There's something beyond. It's like a paradox.
No.
Yeah. Who built existence? It built itself, let's say, or consciousness built existence. Who built this? Who built this? Who built this? Did we humans at one point decide, we gathered, the tribes 100,000 years ago, and said, you know what? Let's create an unconscious mind. That didn't happen. It just happened. And, tens of thousands of years ago, whatever it is, nobody sat together and said, let's advance our unconscious minds, let's upgrade it to a subconscious state. Nobody did that. It's just happened on its own. So what's the next step?
On its own.
Yes. This is just going to happen on its own. We did not do this, or this. We are just experiencing this and taking ownership for it. I am my mind. Whether it's unconscious or subconscious, I'm my mind. We just take ownership for it just because of this. But that's going to happen on its own, just like those happened on their own. It just happened on their own. And this is going to happen on their own. And the only reason why you have this, that happened on its own just as well. All of our thoughts happened on its own. All our thoughts now happen on their own. There is no ownership to our thoughts. They happen on their own. Every thought that you have happens on its own. And this happened to hold this mind, to create this mind, to be able to hold it into existence. So the scaffold will go away when the keystone is placed. Once the keystone is placed, it's just like you're building the arch. So you're not going to take the scaffold away before you put the keystone, because if you take the scaffold away before this, those are going to fall. Right? Those are just going to fall. So you're going to keep the scaffold. If you are God, you are going to keep the scaffold until you place the keystone, the last stone. And when you place it, then all of this will fall apart because there is no need for it anymore. This is exactly how it is. So this is going to be placed on its own, and this is going to go on its own. Every time we think, I want to get rid of my ego, or I want to get rid of the I, or I don't want to think of the past or the future, any thought is really still in this. Even saying, I don't want to believe in good and bad, you're still living in the good and bad. Even if you say, there is no me, you're still living in the me. When you're awakened, when this stone is put and you're awakened, all of this starts just gradually falling apart, one letter at a time. Maybe you would get the E out and would say go, or things like that. You would take this E out and this, and you have M&M. So, but it all happens on its own, and it's, we just, the thoughts are indicators. Our thoughts are indicators. So when I think that there is no me, that there is no I, there is no good or bad, that same thought is an indicator that they're still in me, that I'm still living the world of thought. But there is a word beyond thought, a word beyond thought. And that's a state of consciousness. When you're in that state, there is no thinking. There is no thinking that there is no me or there is no I don't want the ego. There is none of that. There is an abstract world of blankness, emptiness.
Isn't it experience too though? I mean,
Yeah.
rather than blankness, I mean, it's experience without thought.
Experience like what? Like what do you experience?
Like just being in the absolute present.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Experiencing, but not
Right.
thinking, judging, all of that.
Right. You see that there is the brain is again the player is never taken off the field. So what the brain is going to experience, the brain is going to experience a sense of presence. And that experience is not associated or matched by anything in the library of our programming, so it cannot analyze it. It cannot judge it, cannot describe it. It's just that there's an experience of presence. And then when you go out of, when the brain loses focus on that experience and gets distracted by thought, then the brain tries to put label on that experience and analyze it, and when it's back into its subconscious state, then it's try to analyze it and put all kind of words on it and so forth. But in that moment of experience, there are no words, there are nothing to describe it, really, because all thoughts are suspended. So this word of consciousness that's beyond thought, my brain experiences it a lot, often, right? And again, like I explained to you, that consciousness is one, whether it's your consciousness, whether it's the consciousness that's experienced by this brain, or it's the consciousness that's experienced by its brain. Whenever the brain is experiencing consciousness, it opens up the channel between this world and what it sees, what it experiences. It opens up the channel. And no matter what this brain is experiencing, when it's experiencing this, or whatever it is, and it's experiencing consciousness, meaning experiencing at the same time there's an awakening, a state of awakening. When it's experiencing anything, any situation, a disease or a struggle or pain or whatever it is, when this brain is experiencing something here, and at the same time it is observing without judgment what it is experiencing, it opens up the channel with what's in here and what's in here. It connects both words. It connects both words, and that's what we call a portal. This is when the scaffold is down, when the brain is in that state, when it is experiencing the world of form on the outside here, this one here, and when it is experiencing the world of consciousness simultaneously, then it connects both words together. And what does that do? Light from here, which is love, compassion, limitless possibilities, peace and order will flow. Let's say there is a whole world of peace, order, limitless possibilities, freedom, and compassion are trapped in this world. They're trapped by our mind. They're behind you, they want to come, but they're trapped by our subconscious mind. It's keeping them. It's like they want to explode into your life. They want to explode into your experiences, but our subconscious mind is trapping it. And so when there is an opening, all this love and peace and order is going to burst into whatever it's experiencing. So if this is the realm of experience, from this portal, you're not going to be able, the consciousness is not going to be able to experience all of this. So let's say there's a portal here, it's going to experience what this portal can see, what the lens can see, which is the mind. Right? So if this is a lens, and the lens can see 180 degrees, whatever it sees within that 180 degrees, it's going to bring in those possibilities. Order and peace and love and limitless possibilities. So the more portals we have, that's when we reach critical mass. The more portals we have in the world, when you have this, and this, and this, and then you get another one here. So it's like God is developing multiple eyes in order to see all of reality, at least human reality, at the same time. That's a critical mass. When you have a critical mass, when you have enough portals, you have enough people that reach this state of consciousness, then all of humanity will change. That not every human will change, but humanity collectively will change. So the order amongst humanity, meaning you won't have any more countries, you won't have any borders, you won't have all those labels. It all becomes one collective unit. But within that unit, you will still have some subconscious and unconscious units. But then the order of humanity will change.
Like you're producing many geniuses, like people who have the mind and the heart to go together, or the action and the work, right? The word and the action. So spontaneously there'll be a lot of geniuses.
Once we reach a critical mass, you know the story of the 99 monkeys?
No.
You know it?
No.
Okay, I'll tell you the story. So scientists made an experiment to prove critical mass. The theory of critical mass, which is not, in my opinion, theory anymore, it's a fact. And that's the method of evolution. You know, that's how to explain evolution, how evolution works. So they put 99 monkeys on an island, and they put one monkey on another island.
Mm-hmm.
And they start teaching those monkeys one at a time on this island, the 99 monkeys, to do a certain thing, something new that monkeys are not, that is not inherent into monkeys' instincts. And those monkeys start learning, chimpanzees. They start learning to do whatever they teach them to do. When the 99th monkey mastered what he was taught, they all learned what to do. And the 98 monkeys mastered, and they can do it comfortably now. When the 99th monkey learned to do what they were teaching them, the one monkey that was separate on another island that cannot see anything started doing the same thing that those 99 monkeys are doing.
Is that true?
Yeah,
Wow.
this is critical mass.
We're all connected.
Yeah, absolutely. That's evolution. You know, Taoism, according to Taoism, evolution is the fittest, survival of the fittest and so forth. But it's not. If you have animals or you have humans in a certain area that are all, doing the same thing again and again, some humans that have nothing to do with those and completely will start doing the same thing. That's what evolution. That's how evolution works. And this is what I'm talking about, the critical mass of the consciousness. More portals are opening up around the world. More people are awakening. Any minute, any day, it could be anyone.
Okay, so explain to me again why we are so drawn to come here. Because I feel like I'm at a point now where I'm not hearing anything new every week, and I still feel drawn here.
Right.
And then I was watching Muji at one of his satsang. What is this satsang? What is it? It's
Coming together.
it is a group.
Yeah.
And it was just this weekend, he says to the group, those of you who keep coming here all the time, you are awakening. The ones that come and go, they're not ready. But the ones of you that keep coming back, you are awakening. And it's the same thing you said. But I don't understand, because it's like to a point where I don't feel like that. I still want to hear it, but it's not anything new. But I still feel like I want to come
That's a good
there.
point, Barbara. Right. The reason why is this. Because your brain comes in and experiences some understanding, some theories. Okay? So you're understanding this. You go home and you say, I understand this. I don't need to go hear it again in different ways. I understand it. But then your brain experiences itself doing the opposite of what you understood. You go live the opposite. So you come here and I learn all of that. I know all of this. oh, I got it, it's a piece of cake.
Yeah.
And then you forget about it, you go live your normal life, then your brain at the unconscious level, it experiences itself doing the opposite. Now there is some information there, and there is now, so what we did, what we're doing here, let's say, we're adding some information to the library in your head. So now it's all associations, right? It's all matching. So your brain goes out, and it experiences a certain situation, it experiences a part of it reacting in a certain way, and tries to match that experience to the new information in the library, which is this information, and there's no match. It wants to come back to try to match things, to try to align itself. It's like it's out of alignment.
But you're
It's like
telling
you have
us
a
it's
car
nothing
that the
that we
tires
can
are-
do, right?
But the brain wants, right, but the brain wants to do.
wants to.
Absolutely. The brain wants to pursue, the brain wants to analyze and change. And
So
all
the
of
day we don't show up, you'll say, yay!
that. Either way, yay is either way. I would say yay because it's needed, you know, you are exactly what you are. Look, every person, I can tell you this, I had maybe 200 people come into this class in the last year, where 180 of them, or 170 of them, never came back again. And I was talking to Gary about this for fun. And you know, we had a gentleman, Jacob, here. Not last week, in the week before. So every person, you notice that every person that comes here with an ambition, which might look great from a conventional perspective, with an ambition, with a goal, with an attitude to pursue and achieve. They come here and they hear me and hear us talk about don't do anything, just get your pina colada, relax, and watch the movie. Well, that doesn't work for me. I need to change things because I exist and I need to change things. Things can change when they lack trust in God. They just simply lack trust. They cannot surrender the I because they want to go out there, they're go-getters. They're achievers, they're accomplishers, which is the nature of almost every human. But people like you that know that in your past experiences, you experience that you can accomplish things, you can achieve things. But when you come here and you hear that this is not something you can accomplish, you're not the one that's going to create this last stone, like you're not the one that created the stones before it. And you're not the one that created, at no point in time you sat and you decide, I decide that there is a me. I decide that there is a past or future. You're just born with it, instinctually. There is no choice. There is no choice at all. So they come and when I tell them that this stone is going to be laid on its own, that you absolutely have nothing to do with it, you're just the spectator, you're just the audience that's watching the movie, and this is the movie being put together on the screen, and they don't like that because they want to change. They want to go out, and that's because they lack trust. They lack trust. So, but that might change also. Some of
But
those
who's to
people-
say they're not? That stone will hit them, the one that didn't come back.
True.
Right?
That's very true. I mean, but when they're here and they say that, you know, I want to do this, I want to do that, they're all indicators. Those are all indicators. That indicates that they are living in a world of separatism, and their I is very strong. For people that come back, your I is disintegrating. Your brain might not realize it yet, but your I, the I am, you know, this was, I think in the 60s, was a big thing, I am. I am. There's no I am. There is no I. There is no
Is
I.
it, I think therefore I am, was that?
Yeah, there is no such a thing.
That was
Even if they
far.
mean that I am the consciousness, that's still a false statement. There is no such a thing as I. To answer your question is why do you keep coming back here is because your brain is also experiencing something in here that is not quite familiar with. It's unable to match it, associate it with something, this library. So it's at a subconscious level. So you might think, but you know, I'm not experiencing awakening. I go home and I'm sitting in stillness and I'm at peace, but I'm not experiencing this awakening. It's because your brain is unfamiliar with it. It's happening. It's happening in you all of the time. But
But
your
I
brain
do
can't
notice-
pick it up because it can't match it to anything. But yet there is, at an unconscious level, there is something that draws it to this ideology and to this, to hear the same thing or to share. And often you see yourself, you have the talent to share such information because you have a burning sensation in there. Like, I am familiar with this, not just from what I hear or what I read in a book, but it feels real to me. There's something, I can't focus on it, I cannot see it clearly, but there is something, there is a knowingness in me. There is a knowingness, I know this stuff. And it's beyond the thought. But it's all still at the unconscious or subconscious level, depending on how strong it is. And it will suddenly become totally clear and apparent, and that's what we call awakening.
There are some changes that we notice though too.
Yeah.
Like I haven't been interested in, I used to watch the news and I got a lot of enjoyment out of discussing things with people, you know, what was going on in the world and all of that. And now I have no interest in the news. If the news is on, I just feel like, okay, they're all just players and, you know, I mean, I really do, but I really, I have no interest in it. And so I do notice some
Those
things that
things,
change
right.
because I just feel
Indicators.
like it's not real.
Right.
You know, it's just, and